Hi, everybody. I hope you're all doing well today. I'm Renee Rzuski. I am a registered dietitian for our cardiac and pulmonary rehab programs. I'm bringing you education today on how to eat right when eating out. I know that a lot of us do eat out. Some of us eat out more often than we know we should. And we like to have information on how to manage what food choices we should be making when we have some health conditions or health concerns. So that's what we're going to try to talk about today. So let's start here. We can eat out healthy if we just pause and think about some smart eating strategies. Planning is always helpful in thinking about what are you going to be eating, where are you going, and how can we choose our foods more carefully. We don't have to deprive ourselves, but we just need to have some smart strategies. So let's talk about some preparation, things that we can be doing. So if today's the day you know you might be going out to eat, maybe you could start the day off with a healthier breakfast. Maybe you could have a lighter lunch. Think about the types of foods you might be eating at these meals. Could they be less processed in some way, made fresh by your own hand, instead of something you could pull out of the freezer and put into the microwave, or toasting a Pop-Tart? Maybe you know you can make a difference with your portions, making sure that you're drinking enough water, maybe switching out a sweetened drink to help reduce some of those calories. When we think about planning what we could be eating in a restaurant, if you have access to the computer, a lot of restaurants do have menus online. If you don't have a computer to do that, you can sometimes call the restaurant you are planning to go to eat if you've never been there before, and ask them what types of menu choices they offer that might be more heart healthy for you, or lower in carbohydrates if you have diabetes and you're watching blood sugars, or low sodium options. And that way you'll be a little bit more informed on what to look for once you get there. But if you can get the menu, whether online or the next time you visit, you can ask for a printed menu and go ahead and take that home with you. We're going to talk about some things to look for on the menu. A lot of people assume that if you were to choose broiled or grilled or baked options like grilled salmon and baked chicken, that you wouldn't have anything to worry about, that would be more healthy for you than if you were eating something fried. That's not always the case, and the reason for that is with restaurants, everything's prepared with extra butter or oil of some sort, salt, and even sugar. So we'll talk about those last two added things in just a few minutes. But starting with here, just because you're going to order a grilled salmon or a baked piece of chicken doesn't mean it's not prepared with extra oil or butter. So if that's a concern to you and you're trying to limit those things for various reasons, ask them to be prepared without added oils and butter. And the same thing would be for salts. If you ask the waitress, waiter, before you place your order to hold the salt or the butter and the oil, a lot of times they can't. And if they can't, it will be because the restaurant you're eating at does not prepare your food fresh. And that seems odd to say, because isn't that what restaurants are doing, cooking our food for us? A lot of our chain restaurants, the foods are already prepared off site and they're brought into the restaurant and heated up or warmed up for us in the back. So they're not really doing a whole lot of fresh cooking of that food. So they're not able to hold the butter or hold the salt. So if they tell you no, that's probably one of the reasons. And going back to the smart strategies of eating out, you can eat healthy out if you can get to a restaurant where food is prepared fresh, because you can make some adjustments in how your food will be prepared. If you can, try to choose those types of restaurants more often than the ones that can't accommodate you. We all know that meats in restaurants are more flavorful, they're juicier, and that's because restaurants get a specific cut of meat. We call them prime cuts of meats. So they have more marbling. So that's what gives their meats more flavor. In the grocery stores, unless you're buying the prime cuts, mostly what's available are choice or select cuts of meats where there are less fat marbling in the meat itself. So when you have prime cuts of meat, obviously we know the fat content is going to be much higher, and particularly fat like saturated fat. You might be surprised here where it says avoid turkey burgers, because a lot of people, again, assume just because something is poultry based that it would be more healthy for you. So do a little homework on this, because most of the turkey burgers that are made or sold in our restaurants are made with the dark meat, which we all know dark meat has a better flavor, right? But that's because there's more fat content. And then of course, to give those turkey burgers more flavor, they're going to add more salt to that. So you're going to have a burger that's just as high in calories and sodium oftentimes as a regular beef burger. So don't fall into the trap in thinking just because it's turkey that it will be any healthier for you. You might want to do some searching on that. And we'll talk about how we can find nutrition information from restaurants a little bit later. When it comes to your vegetables, even steamed vegetables are prepared with added salt and butter. So I don't know if you've ever noticed when you got to the bottom of the bowl, usually when they bring out the steamed vegetables, you saw an oily kind of mix of water at the bottom. That's because they were prepared with extra butter. So the difference here when we talk about calories, if you truly had a steamed serving of broccoli versus steamed broccoli in a restaurant with butter, the calories for the steamed without butter would be around 50, and then the ones with the butter would be around 300 calories. So that makes a big difference. They also will put their seasoning on there, whether that's salt or their own house seasoning. So we're talking now hundreds of milligrams of sodium versus none if you ask them to prepare it without the added seasoning. Now, what could you add flavor? You know, what could you provide to your vegetables to give them more flavor? Lemon. Restaurants typically have lots of fresh lemon cut up they can bring out to you. They may have vinegars. Of course, most restaurants have salt pepper shakers, so pick up the pepper shaker if you like pepper and use that as a way to provide some flavor. Now, of course, here too, the word farm, that's becoming, you know, a trend for consumers looking for from the farm, natural. Just because it comes from a farm doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to be prepared with extra salt, sugar, or fats. So pay attention. Again, just do your research and ask questions if you're unsure. Now, down here it says avoid these options: teriyaki, barbecue, honey dipped, glazed, sticky things, because this is where you get all the sugars from. So if you've ever ordered a glazed teriyaki grilled salmon or chicken, that word glazed and teriyaki is going to mean there's a lot more added sugars in that meal for you. So if you're watching your cholesterol, your blood sugar, your calories, these are not really good dishes to choose. And for obvious reasons, why would we not choose a loaded, stuffed, cheesy, gooey, baked anything, right? So these are words that are going to tell us for sure that we know there's a lot of calories hiding inside of those options. So preparation, what kind of things can we think about before we're going out to eat? Like I said, we can get online if you're able to do that, or we can give them a call. And how do we find nutrition information? Well, back in 2015, legislation required all chain restaurants to provide information to consumers by the end of 2015. So we can find nutrition information from restaurants by going to their restaurant website. So right here you see an example, typing in the name of your restaurant followed by .com. So let's say you're going to go out to Wendy's. You would, on your computer or on your smartphone, you get onto Google or Bing, whatever you use to search. Just type in Wendy's, or you can do the whole www.wendys.com, And when you get to that restaurant's web page, you'll be able to search for the nutrition information right there. Usually the website's page for the company, you will see a taskbar where you'll have a drop down where you'll see menu, and you can click on menu and it'll have a drop down box, and that could lead you to nutrition information from there. Or you could, if they have just a search box on their front web page, go right into the search and just type in nutrition facts and hit enter, and that will bring it up for you. Or when you visit these restaurants, you can ask them for the printed copy of nutrition information. They are required to give that to you, and it's free. So why not ask for that? That's what's going to help you look at, just like when you go to the grocery store and you maybe read a food label to know if this product's a good choice for your health. It shouldn't be any different when you're eating out either. So this is one way to get there and know exactly what you've been eating. Now, maybe your concerns are sodium. So you can start looking at the sodium in the hamburger you always eat when you go to Wendy's, and maybe you'll see it has, 3,000 milligrams of sodium, and you're shocked by that. Now you can look at other menu options and see what might be a lot lower in sodium. What could you do that's going to be different, but also be a satisfying choice for you? So we don't have to deprive ourselves when we're eating out. If we have the right resources, we may be able to find something that's going to be a little better for us. And then if, like when we're talking about planning, when I said if you're maybe eating at home and trying to have a healthier meal in some way that you've prepared that's less processed, that's going to help you balance out that extra sodium that you might be getting when you're eating that hamburger at Wendy's as an example. So I recommend that as a way to get you going. Other websites you can use or you see listed here, healthydiningfinder.com. I recommend this too. When you get on there, you can search any restaurant from A to Z. So let's say you go to Olive Garden, you could click on O and you'll find Olive Garden listed there. You can click on Olive Garden and what will pop up are all the healthier options that you could be selecting from, along with the nutrition facts with that dish. So again, it helps you to understand how this may fit in to your diet, or maybe it helps you to realize, what you've been eating hasn't been so healthy because you don't see it listed on the Healthy Dining Finder website. CalorieKing.com is a place you can go to and type in the name of the restaurant. So if you want to pull up nutrition information, and this is going to be for chain restaurants only. So mom and pop restaurants or our local restaurants that have less than 20 stores or restaurants across the United States were exempt from the requirement of providing nutrition information to consumers. So when you get onto Calorie King, if you're eating, at Townhouse Restaurant, that's not on there because that's a local restaurant. But let's say you're going to the K&W. Well, that's a chain. So you could type in on Calorie King's website K&W, just like you can go above that and type in kandw.com and get the nutrition facts from there. If you're already using the MyFitnessPal, which is basically a tool to help people log their food intake and exercise and kind of track metrics, they have a really great database in there to help you track restaurants, foods, calories, and all those good things as well. So you can give those a try for some resources. When we're out there ordering food, let's be deliberate and make some balanced meals. A lot of times when we're in a restaurant, you probably remember this maybe from the last time you ate out, that when the plate came to you, you had just a starch and a meat on it, right? So maybe a third of the plate was a starch, a third of the plate was the meat, and then out comes the little bowl of steamed vegetables you ordered. So you're really getting too many carbohydrates and sometimes a little bit more protein than what you need. So we want to balance the plate out better for a lot of reasons, for our health, to get the right mix of nutrients so we can feel satisfied after a meal, that we can keep our blood sugars more stable after a meal, and also to help with weight control and weight loss. So kind of, what we see here, I want to just to give you a description here, make half your plate non-starchy vegetables. So that means if you're in the restaurant with that typical scenario, one little tiny bowl of steamed vegetables, a meat, and a starch on your plate, maybe try to get a side salad to go along with that steamed vegetable. So that would give you about a half a plate's worth of non-starchy vegetables. When you're ordering your meats, keep an eye on the ounces, because a lot of restaurants will list meats in ounces, right? We've seen that. You can have a 6-ounce filet, you can have a 14-ounce filet. In some restaurants, you can have more than that as well. So try to go with the smallest amount, which most places will be 6 ounces. And if you can, just try to eat half of that. And when you order your starch, starches like sweet potatoes are a little better for you than doing white potatoes, because they have more resistant starch or fibers in the sweet potato than the white potatoes, so you digest that more slowly. So that means you don't have as much sugar going into your bloodstream, affecting your blood sugar than when you have a white potato. Or look for whole grains. A lot of restaurants are getting more creative these days with providing brown rice to quinoa, couscous, farro, even cauliflower rice now is popping up at restaurants. So even though cauliflower rice is not really a grain, it could be a vegetable substitute for a starch if you're trying to be more carbohydrate conscious. So that's kind of, what we want to try to think about is more non-starchy vegetables when we're eating in a restaurant, so that we don't eat as much of the starch in the meat. And then maybe you have some leftovers you can take home with you and have for another meal another day. So that can also help you, even if you don't make any changes or read nutrition information when you're eating out. Eating half of your plate makes a big difference, because it's going to be half of everything, half the calories, half the salt, and so on. Oops. Sorry about that. Okay. Some more information here too when we're thinking about ordering. I want to kind of just jump into the sandwich arena. Some people think those Keller wraps, like spinach wraps, sun-dried tomato wraps, provide more nutritional benefits, probably because we think there's actual spinach or tomatoes in there when there's not. It's vegetable flavoring and coloring to make it look like spinach or sun-dried tomatoes and taste like those. So the only time you're really going to have any spinach or tomatoes is if you're actually picking it out on the sandwich bar to be included on your sandwich. What's more important to think about is controlling the size of the wrap you're eating or the amount of bread you're having on a sandwich. I always think smaller here. Less bread means less carbohydrates and less starch. If there is a whole grain option, whole grain rye, pumpernickel, those fare better as far as providing you with more dietary fiber. So then again, you digest those more slowly. They help you stay fuller longer and give you better blood sugar control. We can always make substitutions, and I know some people feel strange if they're not used to asking for these types of requests, but honestly, all your restaurants are used to it. It's just recognizing that, most of the requests you should be making should be somewhat simple. And again, if the restaurant's preparing your food fresh, this typically is not hard for them to honor. So don't be afraid to ask if your side salad can come with dressing on the side, or like we talked about earlier on, can I get my salmon grilled without the added seasonings or spices, salt or oils, and most of the time they'll be able to do that. How can we control portions? Because that's a tough one when we're eating out. We know that restaurants provide many serving sizes to us, and it tastes good, so we find ourselves having a hard time with portion control. What I recommend is to ask the waiter or the waitress while you're putting your order in, ask them to only bring half of your order out and to box up the other half of that. So what they're bringing to you at the table is only half of what you can eat. So if you eat all of that on your plate, you only ate half, and that, again, means half of everything, half the calories, half the sodium. And that helped you achieve your goal in a more simple way. Of course, you can always maybe share something with someone if they're interested in eating the same choice as you are. It's really important when we eat to try to enjoy our food so we can have as much satisfaction from what we're eating, so we don't find ourselves back in the kitchen looking for a snack too soon after a meal. And an easy way to do this even when we're eating out is just to take your time eating. Really try to chew your food well. When we chew our food, our mouth is what starts to release through our saliva enzymes that break our food down. So if we're not doing a good job at chewing our food, we are swallowing large chunks of food that haven't even begun to be digested yet. And that can take a toll on your stomach, your gut, especially if you're prone to some digestive issues or you have reflux, heartburn. So just taking time to chew the food, allowing the enzymes to start breaking that down. But also, it really does take around 20 minutes for your brain to receive fullness hormones that originate from our stomach. So if we're eating too quickly, a lot of us are going to have a hard time controlling our portions, and we'll typically eat more than what we really need. And we've all been there, right? We've all stuffed ourselves because it was there, it tasted good, and we know how it left us feeling afterwards. So we know that's not always a good thing to do on a daily basis. And by just taking your time, you will realize that you're starting to feel more satisfied, and you may even leave food on your plate that you can wrap up and eat later on. On these next 3 slides, these are what I call your little cheat sheets of, coming up with something to eat when you're going out. Now, ask yourself, do you like to go out for breakfast? Is it lunch? Is it dinner? Is it all of those things? And you might want to come up with a list for yourself. These are focusing just on calories. Well, maybe you're not really so concerned about calories as you are about your carbohydrates or about your sodium. So using the resources we talked about earlier on, going to the company website, using calorieking.com, or menus that you find online in nutrition information, you can devise your own cheat sheets. So when you get that call from a friend or a family member, you can go out to eat with confidence because you know what you can order. You'll know that it will be satisfying to you and you won't feel deprived, but you also know it's not going to aggravate any of the health concerns you do have. So you can see those listed here as I'm clicking through the slides. And then last here, if you're looking for more information, this is a book you can find even at your library. You can order it online. It's Eat Out, Eat Well, the guide to eating healthy in any restaurant. So not too expensive here, maybe around $8. You could probably even find this used online too and pay just $1 for it. I do recommend it as an option for you to kind of help you navigate the waters of eating out. So I hope this education helped you in providing you with some resources and information that you can use the next time you eat out. So stay well.